The shadow is extremely dark and terrifying and potentially all destructive. We can see this in this vast crisis that's erupting everywhere. But the truth also is that if you stand calmly in the depth of your divine consciousness, you'll be given a strength to really look at the shadow and make it conscious. And making the shadow conscious, Jung said, is the way to enlightenment. So making this shadow, which is terrifying to all of us, conscious in a sacred way, in a calm way, is the key to our potentially thriving even in this extreme situation.
So that shadow has some specific names that could be put to it.
Well, I like to say that there are two vast shadows that are interlocking at this moment. The communal shadow that's cast by this terrifying crisis, and the personal shadows that collude with keeping that communal shadow going. And how I like to put it is that in the communal shadow, this radioactive shadow that is affecting all of us psychically, emotionally, spiritually, without us always being conscious of it, there are 5 main categories. There is the shadow of disbelief, not being able to believe that something so atrocious as this crisis could be happening. When you uncover that shadow, it leads, in my experience, to denial, because you're so terrified of what you see that you want it not to be true, and you constantly try not to make it true by denial. When you uncover that crisis, what comes up is what you've been trying to avoid, which is terrifying dread. Dread at what the human beings on this planet will have to go through probably, and what the animal race will have to go through, a dread at all the heartbreak and suffering that is already everywhere, but is now bound to get worse. And when you uncover that, what you uncover, in my experience, is disillusion, terrifying, deep disillusion at humanity, accompanied by molten rage. Terrifying rage that really scares you, because you realize that we, despite all the messengers and prophets that we've been given, have chosen a disastrous addiction to power and manipulation, and that this disastrous addiction is now facing the whole planet with an ordeal that is literally unimaginable. When you uncover that and accept that, what you will discover, I'm afraid, is what I call the death wish. You'll discover a desire that so many people have voiced to me, that I have found in myself, a desire not to be here at all in a period that demands so much of all of us. Disbelief, denial, dread, disillusion, and death wish. The great advantage of really being honest about these shadows is that when you start to be, and it's best done through deep meditation and prayer, and best done with great friends, when you start to become conscious of these shadows, they have less atrocious power over you. You become more aware of how they're working to sabotage your passion, how they're working to drive you into desolation, how they're working to paralyze you. And slowly, trusting in divine grace, you can be released from their horrifying secret pull to start turning up as a lover, warrior, midwife of the new. But it's also essential to do the personal shadow work. And I've located what I believe to be 5 really important shadows that we all need to look at in our personality. The first is, I believe, narcissism. I think this is a culture where there's an epidemic of narcissism on every level. We're all infected by it, and we need to really examine the depths to which that narcissism can go in our personality. And that narcissism is, of course, something that keeps the death machine going, because we just are so preoccupied with ourselves that we don't give a damn about what's really happening in the world. And without the destruction of that narcissism, the making of it conscious, the releasing of it, we cannot possibly rise to meet this challenge with grace. The second shadow that is, I think, tremendously active is the shadow of terror at standing up. We all know what happens to whistleblowers. We all know what happens to people who really dare to talk about this crisis. They're marginalized, they're humiliated, they're demonized. We are all afraid of acknowledging what we really know in society, because the kind of demonization we get makes us shrink from the truth that we know. This has got to stop, because we have to claim that truth and we have to speak it. And it's essential that we clear the shadow so that we can stand up and do the work. The third shadow is the shadow which I'm afraid afflicts a whole civilization, and that's the shadow of the love of comfort. The love of comfort rots our soul and rots our soul's passion to actually do something, because we've become so addicted to a lifestyle that we're prepared to keep going. It's obvious, even when the world is being destroyed by that lifestyle. So really getting to the roots of the addiction to comfort and really trying to release it through prayer, through meditation, is a key to help you and I get out of the domination of a world of consumerism into a world of simple choice, where we will be able to take the choice for love in action from a full heart. The fourth shadow is the incessant woundology that we indulge in as narcissists. I've heard so many people say, oh, I can't possibly really start acting in the world until I've healed my 42 childhood traumas. This is garbage. This is privileged, narcissistic garbage. Because there are people on this earth, billions of them, who are suffering unimaginably more than most of us privileged beings. And we have got to get real with the truth of life, which is you will never be able to heal your wounds until you make a commitment to serve the healing of others. Then the healing will arrive in ways that are graced by the divine. And the fifth shadow is the golden shadow. We love to adore famous icons of service and magnificence and spiritual enlightenment, and there's a beautiful side to that adoration. But there's a corrupt side too, because instead of daring to enact the qualities of courage and truth and passion and discipline ourselves, we project our adoration onto others, we pretend that they do it for us, and we don't have the guts to do it ourselves. And the terrible thing about the golden shadow is that you can think that by adoring this person whom you venerate, you are really doing the work. You are not doing the work, because the work is to claim the projection and to take it back, and to realize that what you love in others, what you love in the Dalai Lama or Jane Goodall or Aung San Suu Kyi, is a quality that is crying out to be developed in you. So those are the five shadows, I think, as far as I understand it, that collaborate and cooperate corruptly with the five communal shadows. And what I'm calling out for is for all the teachers and all the therapists and all the healers out there to start facing these shadows in themselves with courage, so that they can help the human race face them. Because what I've found in my own work and with the work that I've been doing all over the world is that when you face these shadows in a sacred way with other people committed to serious work, extraordinary grace arrives and a wholly new power of compassion for the human race and for animals and the creation in this terrible moment. And that compassion is the beginnings of real love in action. And what we need on the earth is a group of people who have married the deep wisdom of the light with the deep wisdom of the shadow, and born themselves and been birthed into divine humanity, coming together humbly but very urgently to do whatever we can in whatever circumstances now arise.